How you doing? Duff here, and this is an update on my CR-10. As you can see, it's happily printing here behind me. It's printing. This is actually a mud guard for my one of my electric unicycles. It's like a 21-hour print or something like that, and I started it last night and it's still going well. So as you can tell, I seem to have the majority of my issues, at least for the time being, handled. So I just wanted to kind of recap and go over what I've done, because there's been a lot of stuff that I didn't document while I was trying to get this resolved, because I was literally trying to fix this problem for, I bet it's close to a month. When you add up me trying to fix something and not working, me possibly buying parts to fix it, not working again. So yeah, it's been a hell of a road to get here. So just want to see if I could, even if I can remember everything that I've done up until this point. Okay, so you may remember that all this started due to clogging. That I had a clogging issue. That I removed the clog, and ever since that happened, I was unable to get the thing to print correctly. It was under extruding constantly. So I've thrown many things at this. I've replaced the nozzle. I got a Capricorn tube, in addition to putting in my spare tube that I got from Creality. Put that in. I put a metal extruder on. You can see that, because I thought the problem was possibly in the extruder. Let's see, what else did I do? I bought additional heat brakes. I have not installed those. I have them in a bag. And I've done all the stuff. I bought Boro Oscillate glass, which, as you can tell, I do not have on right now. I bought solid bed mounts, which I put on and have since removed. I mean, it's just crazy. But what I wound up doing, because my attempts to replace the tube and get the heat brake cleaned out were unsuccessful, I actually bought an entire replacement hot end assembly from Tiny Machines. So it's basically the nozzle, the heat brake, the thermistor, all that kind of stuff, and all the wiring to go all the way back to the control box. And when I bought that hot end assembly, I thought, okay, well, you know, I'm not great at soldering, very average soldering skills, probably below average actually. But I figured I could solder it in, you know. So when I got the new hot end, I took apart the plug that goes into the CR-10, and I looked at it, and I mean, there was no way that I was going to solder that in there. It had like a tight silicone or rubber casing around it. There was very little room to work. I just knew that if I pried that off, it was just going to be more of a mess than I already had. So what I wound up doing actually was I cut the wires from the existing harness and from the new hot end assembly right about here. I cut them, I stripped the wires, and I soldered them together, and then put heat shrink tubing over it. And believe me, it was that was a hairy thing, and I was pretty sure it wasn't going to work. I thought that, you know, I don't know, with all the movement that the head goes through, I just thought there was no way that solder job would hold up. But lo and behold, knock on wood, it after doing a couple prints, like I said, this is a 20-hour print. I did another print that was probably about 10 hours. So far, that solder job has worked. So I soldered that in place, soldered those 4 wires together, put the new hot end in place, and then ran into some issues, again, which I think are mostly self-created, when I was trying to get the auto leveling set up again. And I think what the problem was, what was happening was, I would go through the process to initiate set up the auto leveling sensor, and it seemed okay. I had the offset set, what I thought was correctly. But then when I would go to print, the print head was always riding, you know, like a millimeter or so, between a millimeter and 2 millimeters off the print bed, so it was just dragging filament around. And I went through it a million times, and not a million, but quite a few, and I just could not get it fixed. And I was frustrated, and but I finally came up with what I think was the problem there, and it was, again, self-created. Basically, what I did was I went back to the springs, like I said, and I had them tightened a lot. I had them really compressed, which in turn pulls the bed down, and I had the bed, I think, too low. It was so low that the head actually couldn't get down low enough once I started to print. It was just like a millimeter or two too low, and that's what was causing it, I believe, because once I put the springs back to a extreme close-up, put the strings back to a more normal compression rate, as you can see, it is printing again. So again, I think that was a self-imposed thing. It's just, I mean, well, let me get out of let me get out of here so it's not quite so noisy. All right. So, anyways, it's been just. It's been a crazy hassle, and the funny thing is I kind of went through this whole situation before and videoed basically a similar video to this, outlining everything, and it almost seemed appropriate that somehow after I filmed it, I took out the SD card to process the video here on my computer, and I lost the card somehow. In between, I took the card out, and then I was cleaning up the mess from my mad scientist attempts to get the printer working. And I misplaced the SD card, and I've never found it. So I bought a new SD card as well. I can add that to the tab of my rather huge list of purchases that are CR-10 related since I bought it. I wouldn't even want to add it up. I wouldn't want to even look at the list because it's crazy. So just basically to recap my sentiment on this whole thing was, basically I should have... in retrospect, I would have been better off leaving well enough alone. I made these modifications and improvements mostly based on suggestions that I saw in the CR-10 forum on Facebook. And that group is great. I mean, there's so many knowledgeable people there. There's so much information. Everyone, for the most part, is very friendly and willing to help, eager to help. But I kind of fell into that trap where I was fixing things that weren't broke, and that's what got me into trouble, really. You know, it just seemed like a rabbit hole of things that, you know, I wanted to fix one thing, but while I was trying to fix one thing, I was modding another thing, and then modding another thing, and then that broke something else, and it just was like a vortex of shit. You know, to be blunt, I mean, it just is a hassle. So, but anyways, I think I have a handle on things now. It's a valuable lesson. I don't plan to do any more significant mods. Like I bought bushings for the, not bushings, dampeners for my NEMA motors. I'm not going to put them on. I mean, yes, it's noisy, but it's in a spare room. I don't hear it. No reason for me to rip it apart to do that. I have a ton of extra nozzles now. Hopefully I don't have to replace any anytime soon. And I'm just hoping that that solder job I did to put the hot end assembly in holds up, because I don't want to mess with it for a very long time. It was frustrating. And this is actually my symbol of success. This was the thing that I've been trying to print for a month or so. This is a ornate cross that was actually, this is something that my girlfriend Cindy had. She had like a wood version of this hanging on the wall. It dropped off the wall, it broke, and you know, like some sections in here were broken out. And what I actually did is I employed my buddy. I have a buddy that also rides electric unicycles, who also is very big into 3D printing. And what I did was I took an overhead picture of the broken version of this cross, and he had the skills to be able to, since it's symmetrical, he was able to cut the side that wasn't broken, flip it, reverse it, and overlay it on the broken side, and then create a STL file for me. And this is what I've been trying to print all that time. That was what was driving me, because I really wanted to do that for Cindy, and finally I got that done. So I printed this, and then I'm printing the mudguard right now. So anyways, I don't really know what you take from this, other than possibly if your CR-10 is printing fine, don't screw with it. I mean, if you have special needs, like you're going to be printing a high temperature filament, or you want to print ABS, maybe flexible filament, maybe you need to do this stuff, or some of these mods. But really, the most enjoyment I get out of 3D printing is just creating stuff. And when I create all these self-inflicted issues for myself, that takes me away from doing what I actually enjoy doing, and that's finding new designs and making them. So I don't know, you got to find a happy medium there, and I'm still striving to find that. But this was a valuable lesson learned. So take from my mistakes. I mean, out of all the mods that I did, the Octopi was definitely, and that doesn't really affect the printer at all. Octopi was very good, and I would recommend that for anybody. That makes managing the printer much easier. But as far as anything else, other than the standard CR-10 mods where you're doing like the knobs and the heated bed stress relief bracket, and a few other minor things, I really don't know that the average Joe needs some of the things that you see being pushed on the forum a lot, or promoted on the forum a lot. So that's just my opinion. But anyways, hopefully you learned something from this, and I'll be sure to fill you in on my adventures as they continue. That's it, till next time. Definitely now.